Every runner wants to get faster, right? But piling on more and more miles isn't always the answer. Sometimes it's all about training smarter. So today, we're going to tackle a huge debate in the running world. What's better for your speed, explosive plyometrics or good old-fashioned heavy lifting? We're going to dig into the science and find a real, data-driven answer.
Okay, so before we even step into the gym, we need to wrap our heads around one key idea: running economy. You see, being a fast runner isn't just about having a huge engine, a powerful heart and lungs. It's really about fuel efficiency. Think of it this way. If two cars are going the exact same speed, the one that uses less gas is the better, more efficient car, right? That's what running economy is for us. Better economy means you use less oxygen, less energy to hold the same pace. It is a total game changer.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? We know we want this incredible fuel efficiency, but how in the world do we actually train for it?
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll quickly define these two training methods. Then, we'll put them head-to-head in a data showdown. After that, we'll get practical and look at programming by the numbers. And finally, we'll see if maybe, just maybe, there's a way to combine them for the best possible results.
Okay, let's dive right in. Time to properly introduce our two main contenders in this race for speed.
So on one side, you've got plyometric training. I love this analogy. Think of it as training your body's natural springs. It's all about teaching your muscles and tendons to absorb and then explosively release energy, developing that bouncy, reactive quality. Then on the other side, you have heavy resistance training. This is less about springs and more about upgrading your engine. Here, we're talking about building raw strength, getting your brain to recruit more muscle fibers and make them fire with more force. So, springs versus engine, two totally different paths to power.
All right, springs versus engine. So which one actually works better for runners? Let's stop guessing and look at what the science says. We're going to dive into a big meta-analysis that crunched the numbers on this exact question. And boom, here it is, the key piece of data. Now, don't get bogged down by the fancy name Hedges G effect size. All you need to know is that it's just a standard way scientists measure the real-world impact of something. And for running economy, as the note says, a more negative number is actually a good thing. It means a bigger improvement. And, well, look at that. Heavy resistance training clocks in at negative 0.32, while plyometrics is way down at negative 0.13. The verdict from this data is pretty darn clear.
So let's zoom in on that number for heavy lifting, minus 0.32. What does that really mean? Well, in the world of research, this is considered a small but statistically significant effect. And the important word there is significant. It means the improvement they saw was real and definitely not just a random fluke. Now compare that to the number for plyometrics, which was so small that the researchers actually called it trivial. Basically, the effect was so close to zero they couldn't be sure it was helping it.
Okay, so let's pull all that together. The big headline here is that heavy lifting had a bigger impact, not just on your fuel economy, but on actual time trial performance too. But here's the really crucial part for anyone wanting to try this. It's not just any lifting. The magic happened with really heavy loads. We're talking 90% or more of your 1-rep max, and you have to stick with it. The best results came from programs that were at least 10 weeks long. So you got to go heavy, and you got to be consistent.
Okay, so the data points pretty strongly towards heavy lifting, but knowing what to do is only half the battle, right? Now we need to know how to do it safely and effectively. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of programming this stuff.
And hey, even though heavy lifting won the showdown, plyometrics are still a valuable tool, so we can't just ignore them. Let's talk about how to structure a plyo workout, because if you get this wrong, you're just asking for trouble. It's super intense on your body, so you have to be smart about it.
So check this out. For plyos, you don't really count reps and sets in the traditional way. Instead, the gold standard for measuring your workout volume is foot contacts. It's exactly what it sounds like. Every time your foot hits the ground during a jump or a bound, that's one contact. And the science gives us a great roadmap here. If you're just starting out, you're aiming for 80 to 100 total contacts in a session. As you get more experienced, you can work your way up toward that 120 to 140 range. It's the perfect way to make sure you're doing enough to get better, but not so much that you break down.
And when you're actually doing the workout, there are 3 golden rules you absolutely have to live by. First, quality over quantity, always. We're talking 2 to 5 reps per set, and every single rep has to be max effort, super explosive. This is not cardio. Rule number 2, to do more work, you add more sets, you don't add more reps to a set. The second you get tired and slow down, you're losing the benefit. And rule number 3, and this might be the most important, recovery. Plyos fry your central nervous system. You absolutely need 48 to 72 hours of rest between these sessions, non-negotiable.
So it seems like heavy lifting is the clear winner, right? Well,
what if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if it's not plyos versus heavy lifting? What if the real magic happens when you combine them?
This is where we get into something really cool called complex training. The concept is genius. You take a heavy strength move, like a back squat, and you pair it with a fast, explosive move that's mechanically similar, like a box jump. You do the heavy set, rest a bit, and then bam, you do the explosive set. What's happening is the heavy lift gets your nervous system all fired up. It primes the pump. So when you go to do the explosive move right after, you can actually be more powerful and faster than you would have been otherwise.
And if you're wondering if this really works, just look at the data from this study. It's incredible. The group that did complex training saw significant improvement in running economy, while the resistance-only group saw just moderate improvement. And it's the same story all the way down. Reactive strength, a significant increase versus a minor one. Peak power, high improvement versus a lower one. I mean, look at this table. In every single category that matters for a runner, the combo training absolutely crushed it. It wasn't even a fair fight.
So, what's the final verdict here? It's pretty clear. Heavy lifting on its own is a fantastic tool, no doubt about it, but the science shows us there's an even smarter way. The true path to unlocking your speed isn't about choosing between the engine or the springs. It's about getting them to work together in perfect harmony. So the question we should be asking isn't which one is better. The real question is, how can I intelligently combine them to become the fastest, most efficient runner I can possibly be?